It's Friday, and believe it or not, someone out there has had a worse week than you have. Like this guy, or the poor bastard who has to sift through all of this 4 months into the post office strike. But the Congress of South African Trade Unions top brass are definitely having the worst week of all. Zwelinzima Vavi's suspension from Cosatu for fraternizing with junior employees may have been overturned in the High Court on Friday, but he and his colleagues are still losing the PR battle after he failed to pitch for Tuesday's announcement that NUMSA has been expelled from Cosatu. Vavi doesn't agree with the expulsion, saying there will be no winners if we allow the federation to fracture permanently. But that didn't stop the Central Executive Committee from voting NUMSA out in the early hours of Saturday morning. NUMSA's been disaffected with the leadership of Cosatu and that of its tripartite ally, the ANC, for a while, and Vavi's virility hasn't helped matters. As the largest union in the federation, the loss of NUMSA will cost Cosatu at least 340,000 members and over 12 million rand in annual affiliation fees. That's before you factor in the 7 other unions that have pulled out in solidarity. It also signals a potentially major shift in South African politics. So what does the ruling party think of all this?
Will the answer be the same with a weaker ally? I think it will not be as good as it has when it has a good, strong ally.
Profound. Now for some more people who've had a worse week than you have. While murder accused Shreen Devani sat through uncomfortable testimony by Hawks investigator Captain Paul Hendrickse, with his facial expression dialed up to slightly more sad than usual, a viral video emerged of a possibly drunk, possibly stoned, possibly mentally deranged, racist Cape Townian man who was taught a solid lesson in modern-day South African language and basic manners.
Tell me quick, ain't that a kick in the air?
This method probably wouldn't work on all racists though. The skull's too thick and what's bouncing around inside is covered in a layer of stupid. Just ask Chester Missing. He was taken to court by Afrikaans singer turned activist Steve Hofmeyer last week and ordered to stop saying nasty things about him on Twitter. How but Steve, if it looks like a racist and it smells like a racist, is it really racist to call a racist a racist? Speaking of low class and poor taste, the Atlantic Seaboard definitely had a bad week. A team of pretentious hipsters installed this in Cape Town. With a generous endowment from Ray-Ban, it's called Perceiving Freedom, and gazes out across the Atlantic at Robben Island to remind us all that what Madiba sacrificed for and what he wanted most from life was to wear a sick pair of sunnies, brew. Jacob Zuma's disappearing act from Parliament over the last few weeks could earn him a spot in one of David Copperfield's Vegas mega hits. But he's probably too busy celebrating with some flaming Lamborghinis in his fire pool after the good news from Parliament this week. The committee tasked with probing his involvement in security upgrades to his Nkandla residence has almost completely exonerated him, laying the expenses squarely at the feet of more junior officials. Committee Chair Cedric Frolick told Parliament, "What you see at Nkandla is not worth 1/3 of the money spent." Now I'm sure every resident of every impoverished village in South Africa is just thrilled to hear this news, unless they're viewers of the SABC, or ANN7, or ETV. But not us here at the Daily Maverick. We like to keep things objective. Isn't that right, Nkandla correspondent Rebecca Davis? Rebecca, what's been the response from Parliament?
Shock and surprise that we're seriously expected to believe that the president in no way personally benefited from security upgrades to his personal home. Bear in mind, however, that this was the conclusion come to by a committee staffed entirely by ANC MPs after opposition MPs walked out of the process.
So what happens next?
As I speak, they're supposed to be debating the report for adoption in the National Assembly. However, opposition MPs are trying to delay the process by introducing motions which they're hoping may sufficiently retard things to the point where they might not vote on it. It's a very faint hope, but it's a protest gesture from opposition MPs who are adamant that the whole thing has been a farce.
And that's your weekly dose. For more on these and other stories, go to dailymaverick.co.za. And Cheers to the freaking weekend, South Africa.